So, church, I have this message called All In. We're going to be talking about going all in today. Hey, I don't know much about poker or those card games and chips and all that. I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to that. But I do know this, that when they go, hey, I'm all in, and they push all those chips in, man, it's because they know that victory is at hand. And they're ready to cash in on their winnings. And when it comes to going all in with God today, I want you to know that God has promised us the victory. And so we can trust him as we fully go all in with our lives. We give him every area of our lives. And see, unfortunately, many of us, we say, God, I desire to go all in, but we have these areas in our life, in our soul, and in our mind that we hold back. We've got these doors that we've put some caution tape, do not go in there. We got a do not disturb sign over here. Some of us have really, we don't want God in those areas, so we got a board with some nails. We've got these areas that are closed off to him. And God today is just saying, listen, I want you to yield your life to me because I want to give you that God kind of life. I will have so much more for you than you're living, but we are holding back. And see, Jesus is our model. As he came to this earth and he came down and he lived the human experience and he walked that road to Calvary, and as he was beaten and as he was whipped and as that crown of thorns was placed on his head, as he was stripped naked and as he was hung on a cross, he did not withhold anything from us. It says that for the joy that was set before him, that he laid his life up for you and I. He didn't hold back anything. He gave his all. And today, what is our response to that? That Jesus Christ has given his all for you and I. And our response should be in return that, God, I am willing to give everything that I am to you. But see, we've developed this church culture here in America that promotes being a lukewarm Christian. And today, we've got to hit this thing head on. And some of you may be saying, oh man, pastor's going to go hard. Yes, I'm going hard after it today. Why? Because it is the most loving and it is the most kind thing that I can do for you is to tell you the truth. That it's about time that some of us stop holding back and that we start pursuing God. See, listen, just because you go to church, just because you log into Hub City Online or anything else, that doesn't make you an on-fire Christian. That doesn't make you somebody that is all in. And I've got to love you enough to tell you the truth, that God has different depths that he's calling you to. He has different heights that he's calling you to. He has different widths that he's calling you to. That he is calling you into a place of newness and renewal. And many of us, we have been so complacent with just, just kind of doing my thing. And God is more like an accessory. He's not the main wardrobe. It's like he's a side dish, but he's not the main meal in our lives. And God is saying, listen, will you respond to me? Will you yield your life and give me all of your life as I gave you all of mine? And today is a day of decision for all of us. See, I don't want some kind of sham wow infomercial type faith. One that is, no risk and, low risk. It's cheap stuff. It always they overpromise and underdeliver. I want you to know that a genuine faith with God is one where God always delivers on his promises. That God is the God of more than enough. That God has given us victory. Come on. And so today I want to challenge you to step out of where you are and to step in to this thing of going all in with God. See, God is challenging some of you to go public with your faith. I've heard people before say, I love God. I have a relationship with him, but, I just don't discuss those kinds of things. My faith is a private faith. Show me in the Bible where Jesus' faith was private, where his connection to the Father was private. Show me in the Bible where the disciples and the apostles were quiet about their faith, that they came to just, keep the peace with everybody. You won't find that. And for some of you, God is calling you to a place today to go all in and to be public with your faith. See, some people don't feel comfortable praying to God, and you pray, but just keep it quiet. But don't be talking about that tongue stuff. Don't be talking about operating in power and prophetic words, things like that. That's a little over the top. God is calling some of you into a deeper prayer life. He's calling you into a place of experiencing more of his presence, more of his power. See, some people say, oh, you can sing those songs about Jesus, but don't expect me to raise my hand and be all fanatical about that. But God is calling some of you to worship him in a way that you've never worshiped him before. That you would surrender your life with reckless abandonment because of who he is. That as the word says, that if the rocks, if you won't praise me, that the rocks will cry out. That you worship in a manner where you say, if there is no rock on this planet that's going to out-worship me. That you are committed to just give God all your praise. And you don't care what you look like in front of other people. Why? Because you're not worshiping them. You're worshiping him. He's the only one that matters. And see, and God is calling many of you to deeper depths today. He's calling you to say, you know what? I've got to cash in. I've got to go all in with my relationship with him. See, Veronica and I right now, we're in a battle. We're in a season right now where we've got to go after God with all we've got. We need a miracle, fam. And you know what we've realized and where we've landed is that we are going all in with all that we are. And that God can't be an option to us. God has to be the only option to us. Let me say that again, that God can't be an option to us. He needs to be the only option to us. And sometimes we make God like an option, like, kind of take it or leave it. A little bit in, a little bit out. Like, I'm kind of like, if I got time, I'll press into the things of God. If I don't, he understands. But guys, we've got to get to a place where our relationship with God, we are so yielded to his plan and to his purpose that nothing else matters. That if we don't have time, that the things of God are the things that get done, not the other stuff. And it's very telling about our relationship and where we are as Christians. When we look at the time that we spend and we look at the checkbook on where we spend our money. And unfortunately, we've created a culture that has a commitment out of convenience. Listen to what Charles Stanley says. He says, too many Christians have a commitment of convenience. They'll stay faithful as long as it's safe and doesn't involve risk, rejection, or criticism. Guys, let it be far from us that we live a life like that, where our commitment is only tied to convenience. And that if there's no risk, if there's no chance of rejection or criticism, we're with you, Jesus. But the second any of that comes, man, we're like we're just bolting out. That can't be our lifestyle. And guys, as your pastor today, I'm calling you to a deeper level of commitment to Jesus. I'm calling you to a place of saying, I'm going all in. I'm giving him my all because he gave me his all. And that we will not be satisfied with lousy prayer lives. We're praying once a week or throwing up a couple of heave-hoes for some meals. That we won't be satisfied without worshiping our God. That we won't be satisfied without having our nose in the Word of God and learning and believing God to give us knowledge and wisdom from upon high. That the status quo is not what we seek, but that we are seeking to be red hot for the kingdom of God. That we are on fire for Jesus Christ. And some of you, you're hearing my voice right now, and it is waking you up because you have forgotten what it is like to be on fire for God. You have forgotten what it's like to be in his presence, and you have been distracted and pulled away from the things of God. But today, I believe by his Spirit, he's calling you back, and you are being re-energized as you're hearing my words, and the direction that God has given you fresh vision for where you need to be headed. And that you are saying, you know what, God, I am all in, all chips in, that the victory is at hand, that I am pursuing you and trusting you and you alone, God. Man, I want to pastor a church that is red hot for the things of God. Not just people that are trying to figure out how they can do the minimum, but that we are pursuing him with all that we've got. That we're not okay with knowing the things that we knew when we got saved 5-10 years ago. That we haven't grown from that point. But guys, listen, today is a new day, and it is a day for you to go all in. That God is not simply a option, but God is the only option in your life. Come on, somebody. Can I get some amens in that comment section if you're feeling this? My goodness. See, when I think about being all in, there's something that comes to mind. And in Matthew chapter 25, verse 23, these are Jesus' words. It says, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you a ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. I want to hear those words. I want to hear those words, good and faithful servant. I want to hear those words that God is going to make me a ruler over much because I've taken care of the little stuff. But more importantly, I want to hear, enter into the joy of your Lord. So what does it mean to be all in? To be all in means that you are pursuing the good and faithful life. A life characterized by faith, a life characterized by taking risks, and a life that doesn't care about the things of this world. A life that is yielded to the purposes and the plans of God. See, I look at Moses. Moses was yielded, man. He was all in. And he stood in faith before the Pharaoh and said, let my people go. Noah was all in. God said, I want you to build this ark. Rain is on the way. They hadn't even experienced rain. But by faith, he knew that as he walked in obedience and in faith, that God would save him as he went all in. I look at David, this young boy that stood before a giant, and in faith, he slew that giant. He slayed him as he stood in faith and he was all in and walked in complete obedience to God. I look at Mary, the mother of Jesus, and she's confronted with this dilemma of bringing the Messiah into this world or saving her reputation. She chose God. She went all in and said, I'm not going to worry about what people think about me. And she gave up her reputation to be used by God to go all in. And today, my question is to you, what is it that you're holding back? What is it that you're refraining from handing over to God and saying, God, I want to go all in? What is it? Is it a pet sin? Is it a belief system? Is it a mindset that you're carrying? That God is saying, hand it over to me. I want you to surrender this to me and go all in. Is it your fear that God has called you to some things and your fear is holding you back from letting it go? Has God called you to do something specifically and he's requiring a yes, but you keep giving him a no? He wants a yes, you keep giving him a maybe or not yet? I want you to know that today is the day that you go all in and that you give everything to Jesus. Today is the day that you go from being lukewarm to getting red hot once again as you surrender every aspect of your life. So the cool thing is this, and I want to talk to you about it. It is as you're working that out, what it is that God is saying, hey, hand it over. Come on, give it to me. Surrender it to me. Come on, let's go all in. Push the chips over. Come on, let's do this. I want to talk to you about what you can expect. I want to give you 3 things today. I think I put 4 fingers up. 3 things. 3 things that you can expect. And it's a little unexpected, so this might catch you off guard. But I've got to prepare you for this. As you decide to go all in with God, as you decide that, man, I'm going to go after the things that he's called me to, you can expect opposition and criticism. Wow, what a consolation prize. You can expect opposition and criticism to come your way when you decide to go all in. See, listen to what John 15:20 says. This is Jesus speaking. He says, remember what I told you. A servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also. What a consolation prize, man. You're like, wait a minute, I'm going to go all in and then I'm going to get criticized and I'm going to have opposition and persecution. Yes, you will. It happens. Listen to 1 Corinthians 1:18. It says, for the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to those of us who are being saved, it is the power of God. But see, to the world, when you decide to go all in, they're going to, that's foolish, man. It's make-believe, fairy tale stuff. You will feel the attack. And what you have to know is the attack coming your way is not from people, it's the enemy himself. And often the enemy will get us to focus on people instead of the real enemy. But you can expect it. Those challenges, they're going to come your way. And I want to prepare you for that. I want to give you 3 things on how, as you say, God, I'm all in, and as you start to feel this, because here's why I'm warning you, is that often what happens is as people start to move forward into the things of God, the enemy will put up his greatest resistance early on. Why? Because it's easier to stop something before it gets rolling, okay? It's easier to stop something before it gains momentum. So often the enemy is going to attack early on, and what I've seen is that Christians, I'm going all in with God, and then boom, 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 they get like jumped in the alley, and then they're like, maybe this isn't God, and then they turn back away from what God is actually calling them to. I want to forewarn you today, so then that way you recognize it and you're going, okay, I know to expect this, and I'm going to push through it because God has called me and God is on my side. I've yielded my heart. I've yielded my life completely to him, and I can trust that what is ahead is good. So number 1 is this, is that you have to expect it. Okay? You have to expect it. You have to expect that opposition and criticism is coming your way. Listen to what Albert Hubbard said. He said, to avoid criticism, do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing. So what he's saying is, hey man, don't step out, just exist, and you won't have any criticism. But the second that you do, you make that decision, you know it's coming. And we have to guard our hearts. We have to know that this is the way that the enemy works, and that we are ready for it, okay? We're ready for it. What I want to do is I want to take you to a story in the book of Nehemiah, okay? Chapter 4, for those of you that have your Bibles, we're going to go to Nehemiah chapter 4, and we're going to read verses 1 through 3 to start out, and we're going to stay in that chapter and pull out 3 really important nuggets, okay, today. What you have to understand is that Israel had been taken captive. They had been ran over. Their walls were knocked over. They burned their cities. And they had been living in this desolation and actually living unprotected for all this time. And God raises up this man named Nehemiah. And this dude was awesome, man. He had a heart for God. This guy was all in every way. And he remembers a word that God spoke. And you can go back and see that in chapter 1. But he says, when the children of Israel were unfaithful to God, that God was going to allow them to be scattered out. But that when they repented and they became faithful to God, that he was going to bring them back into their land. And so Nehemiah, he remembers the word of the Lord, and he's tied to it, man, and he lives it and he breathes it, and he's all in on this word, man, that if they will repent, if we come before the Lord, that he's going to bring us back into our land. And that's exactly what he's pursuing. Through a chain of events, he's given the opportunity to go back into his homeland and to rebuild the walls. And so this is where we're going to pick this up, okay? So here he is. He's got this ragtag group of people. They're going to rebuild these walls, okay, with Nehemiah. So Nehemiah chapter 4, verses 1 through 2. It says, but it so happened when Sanballat heard, so Sanballat, he doesn't like Nehemiah at all. He's actually an adversary. It says, he heard that we were rebuilding the wall, that he was furious and very indignant and mocked the Jews. And he spoke before his brethren and the army of Samaria and said, what are these feeble Jews doing? Will they fortify themselves? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they complete it in a day? Will they revive the stones from the heaps of rubbish, stones that are burned? Now let's pick up in verse 3. Now Tobiah the Ammonite was beside him, and he said, whatever they build, if even a fox goes up on it, he will break down their stone walls. And so what you have to see here is that here they step out. They're all in, okay? Nehemiah's in. The people of Israel are in. We are going to rebuild these walls. And right away, you see that the criticism comes from the outsiders. See, I had an experience like this. My very first week as a pastor, I was ordained on that Sunday. I preached a message, man. 17 people gave their life to Christ, man. Glory to God. That had nothing to do with me, had everything to do with him. But we witnessed a miracle. So here we are at the end, took some pictures with some, my family that came out to celebrate. I'm stepping off the stage, and this gentleman comes up and begins to lambast me, man. Like, just, you said this and you said that, starts picking my words apart and just trashing me, man. And I was like, yo, dude, like, like, come on, man. You're coming at me too strong, brother. And it was really not about, it was not even a big deal. But in his mind, he had to correct the young pastor, man, and come up. And here's the thing, is I'm not above correction. And honestly, what he was saying was not true anyways. But here's the issue, is that in that criticism, it stung me for a second. And what I had an opportunity to do, had I stayed on that and didn't expect opposition, didn't handle the opposition, I would have took my mind and my eye off the fact that God just performed a miracle before our eyes, man. 17 people giving their life to Christ. One person giving their life to Christ is a miracle. And that day, 17 people raised their hands and came forward to receive Jesus. And often when criticism comes, we can take our eyes off of what God is actually doing in the midst of the moment, and the enemy can steal your victory, or at least the way that you perceive the victory. Don't let him do it. Don't let him do it. And I'm watching these guys as they're beginning to build the wall, and the people are working, and you have these people coming over and they're criticizing them. They're talking about the materials they're using, the stones, and the fact that they're not skilled laborers, because if even a fox walks up there, their whole wall's going to come falling down. Expect that when you decide to go all in with God, that the enemy is going to come at you and he's going to attack your insecurities and he's going to attack your resources. He's going to attack you in every way, like I said, to get you to turn back. Because if you get momentum going, you are unstoppable in God. And so he's trying to stop you before you can actually gain momentum. Listen to what Zechariah 4:10 says. It says, do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. When you start taking your steps towards God and saying, God, I'm all in. God, I'm going to step up my prayer life. God, I'm going to step up my time with you. God, I'm going to get into your word. God, I'm not going to be afraid to worship in front of people. God, I'm going to start pursuing. I'm going to get me in a small group. I'm going to become part of something greater than myself. What you're going to have to understand is that the enemy is going to attack, but don't despise those small beginnings. It says here, the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. God is rejoicing to see you take new steps in your faith and to grow. And we celebrate with you too as Hub City Church. We're not despising these little steps. You may be feeling, I'm just doing little stuff. No, you're doing huge things, because it is going to set off a chain reaction of momentum in your life that is going to be unstoppable through Christ. And this is something that you need to know, that when you step out into the things of God, there's a common trait amongst great leaders. And you need to know this, because all of you are leading in some capacity, whether you're leading yourself, you're leading a family, you're leading in the job place, you're leading in ministry. Is that the enemy is going to come at you. You have to expect it. But you have to understand there's a common trait with great leaders, and it's this. It's their ability to manage pain and to endure pain. What you will find with great leaders, and you peel back the curtain of their story, often you're going to hear stories of tragedy and pain, discouragement, and things that they've faced that God has helped them overcome. And just understand that the bigger the dream that is on the inside of you, the bigger thing that you're called to, the greater the opposition that you will face. So don't grow discouraged. Don't back off. Okay, as you take those hits and you feel like your momentum is taking a hit, you start powering through. Why? Because once the train gets rolling, the train is unstoppable. Expect it. Okay, expect that you will have opposition. Expect that you will have criticism. Are you guys ready for number 2? So number 2 is that you have to take things seriously. So when you decide to go all in, okay, whatever it is that God's calling you to, you've got to take it seriously. It has to become a top priority. Listen to this. Let's go back to Nehemiah chapter 4. Now we're going to skip down to verses 17 through 18. I'm going to give you just a second to get there. Okay, Nehemiah 4, 17 through 18. It says, those who built on the wall and those who carried burdens loaded themselves so that with one hand they worked at construction and with the other hand, they held a weapon. Every one of the builders had his sword girded at his side as he built, and the one who sounded the trumpet was beside me. So this is awesome. This is crazy too at the same time. So here these guys, they're on task, man. They're taking building this wall seriously. They're not letting up, just rock after rock, mortar, rock, mortar, mortar, rock, and they're just going. But yet they had their sword ready to rock and roll because they knew that the enemy was, could attack at any moment. And so these guys were really taking it seriously. They were not going to be deterred from building that wall. I mean, whatever came at them, and they were prepared. And I want you to know that as you go all in with God, there's something that it takes in order for you to see that growth in your life. And it's that you're going to have to take it seriously. That you have to be willing to build and fight at the same time. And both take a lot of energy and a lot of focus. But it's one of those things that we have to be serious about, that we don't let up. That the things of God become priority. That if we've got to get up earlier or if we've got to stay up later to pursue and yield ourselves to God, then so be it. That if there's anything that has to fall to the wayside, it's the things of this earth. It's the things that don't matter. It's worth cutting out TV. It's worth cutting out entertainment for the pursuit of God. And so we make what's important to God important to us. And we become laser beam focused. We become serious about the things of God. And we don't back off. And these guys, they were ready to build and they were ready to fight at the same time. And often what we don't realize is that criticism, it actually comes our way because of our lack of focus. That we say one thing with our mouth, I'm committed to God, I'm committed to God, I'm committed to God. But then when people around you and your family and people, they go, what they're saying and what they're doing are not matching up. And it's important that we are laser beam focused, that what is coming out of our mouth is what we are living at the same time. I was thinking about this, when people are serious about something. I know a couple people who are Muay Thai fighters. I know a couple people who are jiu-jitsu fighters. And there's some people who box, quick hands, good footwork, good head movement. And they train. They train like crazy to be good at their craft, and they love it and they're great at what they do. But years ago, I've never really formally trained to fight in anything. But I got these CDs that some of you guys might know, and I was secretly training in my house to be a fighter, and it was called Taibo. Some of you guys remember Taibo, right? Billy Blanks was no joke as a fighter, but come on, man. Taibo ain't nothing serious. You're doing Taibo, doing front kicks and exercises to lose weight. That did not prepare anybody for a fight. And that's kind of what it is when we don't take being all in and what God is calling us to. If we don't take it seriously, it's like the enemy is training as a real legit fighter, and we're over here rocking Taibo in the side room. And I want to challenge you that whatever God has called you to be all in on, that you take it seriously. That it becomes a pursuit of your heart before the Lord, that you're going after it with all your might. See, as I'm looking at these guys, they did not back off. They were ready to build and they were ready to fight. The question is God calling you to be laser beam focused on something that maybe you've kind of been bringing some, negative attention or criticism to yourself because people are realizing you're talking a good game, but maybe you're not really living a good game. I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to tell on myself. I'm not going to tell you what I did, but there was a guy at work, and this happened 18 years ago, okay? And it was so bad that I still remember it. It was one of my greatest failures of all time as a Christian, okay? Like I said, I'm not going to go into details about this, but anyways, I was at work, he was at work, and I completely and utterly blew my witness, man. I mean, I'm talking it was bad. Blew my witness, man. And to make it worse, because I wasn't being serious, I wasn't taking the calling on my life seriously, I will say that I was living and I was compromising in some areas that were causing me to be lukewarm at best. And I said something and did something that was so crummy that he said to me, and he says, dude, he says, if this is cool at your church, sign me up. Dang, I got blasted, people. I got blasted. He called me out so hard on what I said and what I did that he said, dude, if this is acceptable, if this is cool at your church, then sign me up. And this guy was as worldly can get. Man, I blew it. Why? Because I wasn't taking my call seriously. I wasn't taking what God had anointed me to do seriously. So I want to challenge you today. Don't be that Tybo fighter, man. If you're going to train, if you're going to get in there and do the things that God's called you to do, you got to be legit. You've got to be one that operates with great integrity, and you're taking it seriously. And here's the last thing that I want to give you today when it comes to you going all in. Understand that you're going to face some opposition from the enemy, and you're going to face criticism from people. It happens. The last thing is that you need to let God be your defense. Let God be your defense. Let's go again to Nehemiah chapter 4. We're going to go to verse 20. And this is so good that you hear this. Give you just a second to get there. Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 20. And he says, whenever you hear the sound of the trumpet, rally to us there. Our God will fight for us. See, many of us, as soon as somebody comes against us, as soon as somebody challenges us, man, we got to go on the assault, man. We got to defend. We got to attack them. If they made us look bad, we've got to make them look worse. How dare you come at me? But what God is showing us is that when you are all in with God, when you've cashed all the chips in, and you're trusting Him for your victory, you're trusting Him in all ways, you're also going to have to trust Him to be your defense. And when people come against you and they misunderstand you, you are going to have to just trust that God is going to vindicate you, that you don't have to defend yourself. I love what he says. Whenever you hear the sound of the trumpet, he says, rally to us there. You come together as a people. And he says, our God will fight for us. I want you to know that God can defend you so much better than you can defend yourself. Often what happens when we try to save a relationship, when we try to defend ourselves, we end up losing that relationship. But God has a way that when we trust Him, He works behind the scenes. Why? Because He's working on our heart and He's working on their heart. And we just have to trust that when you face any kind of criticism, just say, you know what? Jesus was persecuted. They're going to persecute, as well. I'm going to receive it. Understand that, hey, maybe there's some truth and validity to their criticism, as we said, because we may not be taking it serious. But don't feel like you need to lash out and defend yourself. Let God defend you. Something happened, and I don't often share these kind of things with you, but I want to because I want to see our church head in this direction. I want our church to be a church where God can speak prophetically and where God can work behind the scenes in a very supernatural way. And so I want to share something that happened at the end of last year and the beginning of this year in 2020. So the end of last year, I have a really close friend, and he came to me and he's like, Pastor Steve, I was praying for you, and God gave me a word. And I was like, cool, man. Like, tell me, what you got. And he said, God wants you to know that you're a lion. And I was like, man, okay, cool. Is that a good thing? I mean, he said it kind of in a way that it was a good thing. So I received it well, but I also know that lions smell really bad too. So I don't know if he was trying to tell me to take a shower. I don't think it was that. I'm just playing around with you guys. But he said, you're a lion. And I was like, okay. And quite honestly, I didn't really think too much of it. Just kind of received it. Okay, cool. Then I was in another position with some other people in early January. And they were praying for me and they had hands on me. And I felt the Lord speak to me inside. He says, you're a lion. And it reconfirmed something. And I was like, wait a minute. I just heard that last month in December. And now I feel that the Lord's telling me I'm a lion. And I'm sitting in this group. And I left and I was determined to press in and go, God, what are you trying to tell me? I'm a lion. Do I smell like a lion? Do I need to cut my hair? What's going on? And this is what the Lord spoke to me the very next day. He said, a lion doesn't care what the opinion of the hyena is. He doesn't care what the elephant thinks about him. He doesn't care what anybody thinks about him because he's at the top of the food chain. And as I pressed in Revelation chapter 5, verse 5, it says, "Behold the Lion of the tribe of Judah," is that I want you to know, and I want to declare this to you today, that you are a lion. That the Spirit of God, the Spirit of Jesus resides on the inside of you. If you are a born-again believer, Jesus lives on the inside of you. And in Revelation it says, "Behold the Lion of the tribe of Judah." That God's presence, the Spirit of Jesus, the Lion, the one who doesn't care about what other people think, the one who's not trying to impress everybody else. The lion doesn't get up in the morning and roar and care what the cheetah thinks and the tiger thinks and the alligators think. He just lives with confidence, courage, boldness, and strength. And today I want you to know that you cannot live and go all in with God, concerned with what everybody thinks about you. You have the Spirit of God. You have the Spirit of Jesus, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, residing on the inside of you. And because of that, you can have courage and you can have confidence and you can have boldness and strength as you walk through this journey of saying yes to Jesus and saying, "God, I am all in. I am not holding anything back. It doesn't matter. I don't have to defend myself. You will defend me." Come on, that is a good word. You are a lion. Some of you are lionesses, okay? You're going, "Oh, I don't want to be a guy." You're a lioness. The Spirit of God is on the inside of you. The Spirit of Jesus is on the inside of you. You do not need to fear what people think about you. You do not need to be controlled and ruled by the opinions and the criticism of other people.